How to be successful in difficult relationships. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. So, I've known several people that have been in difficult and challenging situations with people. They were the ones doing everything right, and the other people were not. And some of these situations were work environments, some of them were family environments, some of them were social environments that the people that were in these relationships wanted to remain in for whatever reason. Perhaps on the job, it was because, well, their finances came from that job and they made very good money. Perhaps in a family dynamics, they all lived in the same house and for whatever reasons, they needed to remain so. And there was a need for each other, at least at a distance. And in a social setting, perhaps it was a social setting that someone truly, truly wanted to be a part of, and yet there were difficult and challenging people in that social group. And so I've kind of seen it all through other people. And so these are my thoughts on how to get along in difficult and challenging situations when there are other people that are not doing the right things. Perhaps they could be even toxic behaviors, bad behaviors, sloppy behaviors, rude behaviors. They could be disrespectful behaviors. I know on a job situation, I have been in job situations years ago where I had a rude boss. And this is long before you could make a complaint or anything like that. But I loved that job, and that job was important to me, and there was no other job quite like it. And so what I learned to do is I just smiled and kept busy and kept on my way and kept doing what I was meant to do. Was it right how she treated me? Absolutely not. But I ended up being victorious as a result of that job, in the sense that I was able to stay on there as long as I wanted to. And when I left on a good note, on good terms, and with good recommendations. And so for me, I had to learn to work it. I kept my distance from her, and yet whenever she wasn't nice, I remained nice. I didn't try to build a relationship with her. I didn't try to be best buddies with her. I didn't try to go out of my way to get along with her. I just was polite, respectful, and kind, and did my job. And with family situations, I've seen people in family dynamics where people were dysfunctional, not nice, and then you had that one family member that was the peacemaker, that was the fixer, that was always trying to take care of things. I remember one situation in particular that she said, I've been fixing and taking care of and trying to make things better, and all people do is mess up things constantly. And it was true. She was the one that was trying to figure it out, trying to make things good, and everybody else was just making a mess of it. And so what she did was she backed off. She didn't back out, but she backed away. She stepped away. She stepped back. And she kept her distance as much as possible, built her own life, did her own things. Even when they weren't being nice and respectful, she remained polite, kind, and distant. And that's because she chose to stay in those relationships for whatever her reasons were. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why didn't she just get out? I think a lot of times that is a great idea, to get out of situations like that. But for some reason, for some people, they don't want to leave a job or a family setting or anything else. And yet they don't want to fall victim to the disrespect, the nastiness, and the challenging difficulties that are in that relationship. So what they do is they back up to a safe place where those darts, so to speak, are not coming at them, or if they are coming at them, they don't affect them. And when they have to interact, they interact on a very basic level of yes, no's, kindness, politeness, no nastiness on their part, but more like from a professional angle rather than from any kind of emotional angle. Is that ideal? Absolutely not. We don't want to be in relationships like that. We don't want to have relationships like that. especially when we are doing all the work trying to have great relationships. But what I have found is that often people who are the peacemaker, people who are doing the right things, end up in situations where people are not. Because, well, a lot of people don't do the right things and don't act right in relationships. And whether it's work-related, social, or family, or friends, or whatever. So we have to decide, do we want to remain there? Do we want to stay there? Are there other options, positive options, how we can deal with it? I know in workplace environments now, people can go to different people to complain. And that's always a possibility. But what do you do in the meantime? What do you do? And often we can deal with difficult people by keeping our distance, being polite and being nice without trying to interact beyond the yes, no, politeness, being professional in a sense. And because often what people find is when they go beyond that distance, they get into the muck again. They get into the problems. They get into the nastiness with the people. And my thoughts are, if someone's being nasty to me, that's their problem. It's not me that's doing it. I'm doing all the right things and they're not. And they must not feel good about themselves to be like that. And so I step back and step back and step back and step back until I can get to a safe, comfortable place. And then I interact at a very basic, generic level. That's if I want to stay in that relationship for whatever the reason, or that environment where those people are. And sometimes it's not staying in the relationship as much as it's staying in that environment, such as a job. And so my way of handling it is, or my way of seeing how to handle it for some people, is that keeping the distance, staying polite, staying professional, not falling into the nastiness that they're spewing out, and just doing my own thing. I think often in these situations, people want to go back into the relationship and make it what they want it to be. And sometimes we can't make those relationships what we want them to be, that they could be, because the other people are not willing to do the right things. And yet, for whatever reason, we stay in that situation. And so we find a way that's safe, that is distant, that is kind and polite and nice, and yet we do our own thing. From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.